pain. That's where it all begins. The silent nights when nobody claps for you, the mornings when your body screams at you to stay in bed, the moments you feel invisible to the world. Those are the fires that forge greatness. Success is not about luck, not about handouts, not about waiting for someone to give you permission. It is about one rule, one single unshakable rule. Never betray your own discipline. The man who can control himself can control everything. When you tell yourself you'll wake up early and you do it, you win. When you promise yourself you'll put in the work and you deliver, you win. Success is not a destination. It is the echo of every small promise you kept when nobody was watching. And the truth is brutal. You either obey that rule or you watch others who did live the life you only dreamed of. No excuses, no shortcuts, no waiting for motivation. You are either the master of yourself or the slave of your weakness. The world does not care about your feelings, it respects your results. One rule, one law, one truth. Discipline is freedom, and freedom is success. Discipline is the foundation of all success, because without it, nothing else matters. Talent without discipline is wasted potential. Intelligence without discipline is scattered thought. And ambition without discipline is just empty dreams. Discipline is the root that holds everything together, the core principle that separates those who wish from those who achieve. It is the quiet, relentless force that drives you to keep moving when your emotions want you to stop, when your body begs you to rest, and when the world tells you it is impossible. Discipline is not about doing what you feel like. It is about doing what is required. Every success story you admire, every powerful figure you look up to, every person who built something extraordinary from nothing, at the center of their story is discipline. The truth is simple. Discipline is painful, but regret is far worse. When you lack discipline, you accept mediocrity, you betray your own potential, and you live shackled by excuses. But when you master discipline, you bend reality in your favor. You start seeing results that others call luck, but you know it was the price you paid through consistency and sacrifice. Discipline is the voice that whispers, get up when it's easier to stay in bed. It's the reason you go to the gym even when you're exhausted, the reason you keep working on your craft long after others quit, the reason you say no to temptations that derail your progress. Without discipline, motivation is meaningless, because motivation is temporary and emotional. It rises and falls like waves. But discipline is constant. It is the anchor that holds you steady in storms. People who rely on motivation quit when it's hard. People who rely on discipline keep going no matter what. That's why discipline is freedom. It frees you from weakness, from fear, from regret. It gives you the power to command yourself. And a man who can command himself can command the world. But think about it. Every great achievement in history came through discipline. Athletes trained for years, ignoring pain, pushing past fatigue, refusing to surrender when their bodies screamed for mercy. Entrepreneurs work tirelessly, risking failure, sacrificing comfort, enduring stress and doubt, but staying consistent when others crumble. Soldiers, artists, leaders, inventors, they all share the same trait, the ability to control themselves and keep moving forward when others give up. This is why discipline is more valuable than talent, more powerful than luck, more crucial than connections. Discipline can take an average person and turn them into a giant. Without it, even the most gifted will fall. Discipline builds confidence because every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, you prove to yourself that your word has weight. Most people destroy their confidence by breaking promises to themselves. They say they'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. They say they'll commit, but they quit when it gets tough. And with every broken promise, they lose trust in themselves until they live in a cycle of self-doubt and weakness. Discipline ends that cycle. Discipline rebuilds confidence by stacking victory upon victory, small wins that accumulate into massive change. You don't become confident by talking about success. You become confident by acting in discipline until success is undeniable. The hardest truth is this: discipline requires sacrifice. You cannot have everything. You cannot chase comfort and success at the same time. You must choose. Discipline demands that you cut away distractions, silence excuses, and endure temporary pain for permanent growth. That pain is the filter that separates the average from the extraordinary. The average person avoids it, hides from it, seeks shortcuts and comfort. The extraordinary person embraces it, because they know discipline is the only path to greatness. If you want to rise above, if you want to live a life that commands respect, if you want to build a legacy that cannot be ignored, then you must commit to discipline in every area of your life. Your body, your mind, your habits, your words, your work. The reason most people never achieve true success is not because they lack ability, but because they lack discipline. They wait for the right time. They wait to feel ready. They wait for opportunities instead of creating them. Discipline does not wait. Discipline acts. Discipline creates the right time. Discipline builds the opportunity. Discipline makes you ready. Every excuse you make is just weakness dressed up as logic, and every time you give in to that weakness, you train yourself to fail. But every time you obey discipline, even when it's uncomfortable, you train yourself to win. That repetition, that consistency, that daily obedience to discipline is what creates unstoppable momentum. The end of your life, you will not regret the moments of discipline, the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices you made for your dreams. You will regret the days you wasted, the opportunities you ignored, the chances you threw away because you chose comfort over growth. Discipline is the difference between living as a lion or existing as a sheep. The choice is yours, and it will always be yours. One path is easy now and painful later. The other is hard now and glorious later. Success demands that you take the hard path, and that hard path is discipline. Discipline is not just the foundation of success. It is success itself, because once you have discipline, everything else follows. Wealth, power, health, respect, freedom. They are all built on the back of discipline. Without it, they collapse. With it, they are inevitable. If you want to rise, if you want to conquer, if you want to live a life that others only dream about, you must burn this truth into your soul. Discipline is the foundation, the weapon, the rule, and the reward. Every broken promise to yourself destroys confidence, because the most important relationship you will ever have is not with other people, it is with yourself. You can lie to the world, you can fake a smile, you can act strong in front of everyone, but deep down you always know the truth. When you tell yourself you'll start waking up early and you don't, you feel it. When you say you'll commit to working out and you quit after a week, you feel it. When you promise to stay consistent with your goals and you fall back into laziness, you feel it. Every time you make a promise and break it, you carve a crack in your self-belief, and eventually you stop trusting yourself altogether. That is the silent killer of confidence. Confidence is not built on words. It is built on evidence. The evidence you collect from your own actions. When your actions align with your words, your mind starts believing you. But when your words are empty and your actions prove otherwise, your mind labels you as a liar, and you cannot respect someone you don't trust, not even yourself. This is why so many people walk through life looking strong on the outside but weak on the inside. They chase validation, compliments, and approval from others because they don't have the foundation of self-respect. And self-respect only comes from keeping promises to yourself. Think of it this way. If you had a friend who constantly said, "I'll be there for you," but every single time they let you down, would you still trust them? Would you still count on them? Of course not. Eventually, you'd stop believing their words, no matter how nice they sounded. That's exactly what happens inside your own mind. When you keep telling yourself you're going to change, improve, or achieve, but you never follow through, your brain stops believing you. You become that unreliable friend to yourself. And without trust in yourself, you cannot build true confidence. Confidence is not arrogance. It is not fake bravado. It is the quiet strength of knowing you will do what you said you would do. That knowledge becomes unshakable when it is backed by action. Every time you follow through, even in the smallest ways, you add a brick to the fortress of your confidence. Every time you break a promise, you tear one down. This is why some people with fewer talents achieve more than others who seem naturally gifted. The achievers have learned the power of keeping promises to themselves, while the gifted often waste their potential because they lie to themselves and rely only on talent. Discipline beats talent when talent breaks its own promises. The danger of breaking promises to yourself is that it becomes a habit. At first, you might feel guilty for skipping the workout or procrastinating on your goals, but after a while, your mind normalizes it. You start living with the lie. You convince yourself it's fine, that you'll try again later, that life is just hard right now. But the truth is, the more you break promises to yourself, the easier it becomes to accept weakness. You stop expecting greatness from yourself and you settle for less. That is the fastest way to kill your confidence, your ambition, and eventually your dreams. On the other hand, imagine what happens when you keep promises to yourself, even the small ones. You say you'll wake up at 6 a.m. and you do. You say you'll read for 30 minutes and you do. You say you'll push one more set in the gym and you do. It doesn't matter how small these actions seem, because what they're really doing is rewriting your self-image. You start seeing yourself as someone who can be trusted, someone reliable, someone powerful. And once you believe that about yourself, your confidence becomes unstoppable. You no longer need the world to validate you because you know who you are. That's real power. Confidence is not given, it is built. And the foundation of that construction is promises kept. Every successful person you admire is standing on that foundation. They didn't build confidence by waiting for someone to clap for them or by faking it until they made it. They built confidence by stacking action on action, promise on promise, victory on victory. They trained their minds to trust their own words. That's why they walk into a room with certainty, why they speak with authority, why they move through life with an aura of power. They know they can count on themselves because their past actions have proven it. Think of the alternative. If you don't trust yourself, how can you ever expect others to trust you? If you don't believe in your own discipline, how can you convince the world to believe in your vision? The root of leadership, success, and respect is self-trust. And self-trust is destroyed every time you break promises to yourself. You cannot escape that truth. You cannot hide from others, but you cannot hide from yourself. The mirror always knows, your mind always knows, and deep down you always know. That's why it stings. That's why regret burns so deeply, because you realize you were the one who betrayed yourself. The solution is simple, but it isn't easy. Stop making promises you won't keep. Stop lying to yourself. Start small, keep it real, and rebuild that trust brick by brick. Don't commit to massive changes overnight if you know you won't stick to them. Begin with one promise, one commitment, one daily action that you absolutely refuse to break. And once you master that, add another. Over time, you'll transform your life because every small promise kept compounds into unshakable confidence. That is how true greatness is built. Not with words, not with dreams, but with disciplined actions that prove you are a man or woman of your word. Every broken promise to yourself destroys confidence. Every kept promise creates it. That is the game. That is the law. You can be the most talented, the most intelligent, the most gifted, but if you cannot trust yourself, you will always lose. And you can be average, ordinary, overlooked, but if you keep every promise you make to yourself, you will rise above them all. Confidence is not a mystery. It is the reflection of your actions. Look at your life right now. If you want to know how confident you are, ask yourself this: how many promises have I kept? The answer will tell you everything. The world only respects consistent results, not excuses, because results are undeniable while excuses are invisible. Nobody can see the hours you claim you worked but didn't. Nobody can measure the obstacles you say stood in your way. Nobody cares about the reasons you couldn't make it happen. All the world sees is what you deliver, and if you deliver nothing, you are nothing in its eyes. Excuses may comfort you in the moment, but they destroy you in the long run, because while you're busy explaining why you failed, someone else is busy producing results. And the cruel truth is that the world listens to results, excuses fall on deaf ears. People might nod when you explain why you're struggling. They might show sympathy, but they don't respect you. Respect is reserved for those who prove themselves through action, not for those who explain their failures. Think about it. Every person you admire, every figure that commands attention, every name etched into history, earned that place through consistent results. They didn't need to explain how hard their journey was. They didn't need to beg for understanding. They didn't rely on excuses. They showed up, they delivered, and their results spoke louder than any story they could have told. Meanwhile, the forgotten masses drowned in excuses. Too tired, too unlucky, too unsupported, too busy. The graveyard is filled with people who had excuses, but history is written by the ones who had results. That is why the world separates the powerful from the powerless, the respected from the ignored, not by what they said, but by what they produce. Excuses are seductive because they let you avoid responsibility. They allow you to shift blame to circumstances, to people, to luck, to timing. But excuses also chain you to mediocrity. The moment you justify why you failed instead of owning it, you give up your power to change it. Results demand ownership. They demand you look at yourself, admit the truth, and push forward no matter the circumstances. Life doesn't reward the person who has the best reasons for quitting. It rewards the person who refuses to quit regardless of reasons. The harsh reality is that nobody is going to hand you respect just because your story is sad or your challenges were real. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has struggles. What separates winners is that they produce results despite them. Results are not built in one day. They come from consistent effort, repeated actions, relentless persistence. The key word is consistent. You cannot show up once, succeed once, and expect lasting respect. The world respects patterns, not accidents. If you succeed once, people may call it luck. If you succeed again and again, you force them to call it skill. Discipline and power, consistency is proof. Consistency builds credibility. When you show up every day and produce, people stop doubting you because your track record speaks for itself. That's why results are powerful. They shut down arguments, silence critics, and eliminate excuses. Excuses, on the other hand, erode your reputation. If you keep talking about what you're going to do but never do it, people eventually stop listening. If you constantly explain why things didn't work out, people start labeling you as unreliable. Even worse, you begin to believe your own excuses. You start weaving them into your identity, convincing yourself that you're a victim of circumstance instead of the master of your life. That belief kills ambition. That belief destroys potential. That belief keeps you small. Meanwhile, the ones who hold themselves accountable, who cut through excuses and focus only on results, rise above. The reason the world respects consistent results is because results are evidence of control. They prove that you have the discipline to overcome weakness, the resilience to endure failure, and the focus to stay committed. People trust those who get results because results are reliable, measurable, undeniable. A man who consistently delivers results becomes a leader because others know they can depend on him. But a man who constantly offers excuses becomes forgettable because excuses can't be trusted, excuses can't be measured, and excuses never build anything. Respect in this world is not given freely. It is earned through demonstration. You may beg for it, demand it, or believe you deserve it, but without results, those efforts are meaningless. Results are the only currency that buys respect. That is why the most powerful people on earth don't explain, they show. They don't talk about how hard they're working, they prove it by what they produce. They don't complain about circumstances, they bend circumstances to their will, and that is why they stand above the rest, respected, admired, even envied, because they understood the rule. The world respects results, not excuses. If you want to change your life, stop explaining and start producing. Stop wasting energy justifying your failures and start using that energy to build victories. Don't tell the world how hard it is. Show the world how strong you are. Don't talk about your goals. Show evidence of your progress. Don't say you'll do it tomorrow. Do it today, and then again tomorrow, and again after that. Stack result after result until your record is undeniable. Once you do that, you won't need to ask for respect. Respect will be given freely because results speak a language that everyone understands. Excuses fade, results remain. Excuses are forgotten, results are remembered. Excuses are for the weak, results are for the strong. The world doesn't care how close you came, how hard you tried, or how unlucky you were. The world only cares whether you made it happen. So if you want respect, if you want power, if you want freedom, stop feeding yourself excuses and start demanding consistent results from yourself. Because at the end of the day, the scoreboard doesn't lie. The world doesn't clap for explanations, it claps for victories. And if you don't deliver them, someone else will. And so the truth is clear. Life does not bend for excuses, it does not reward intentions, and it does not celebrate empty promises. It bows only to results. Every dream you hold, every vision you carry, every goal you whisper to yourself late at night will mean nothing if you do not back it with relentless, disciplined action. You can talk for years, you can plan forever, but talk without proof is just noise. And plans without execution are just fantasy. The world is watching you, not your words, but your results. Every day, you either build respect or destroy it, and the choice is always in your hands. Success is not about being lucky, gifted, or born into privilege. It is about consistency, resilience, and self-mastery. Keep your promises, embrace discipline, and deliver results no matter what stands in your way. That is the one law of life that no one escapes. You will either obey it and rise, or ignore it and fade. So decide today, right now, that you will no longer settle for excuses. Decide that you will be remembered not for what you said you would do, but for what you proved you could do.